right. My name is Heather Dewey Pettet, and so this is the panel for self-care for ND creatives. And I will get the presentation started. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So one moment while I do that. Maybe there's something I did not do. I don't know why it's not.
What I found with the presentations that I've done is that both PowerPoint and Gather have to be shrunk down and not full screen. Otherwise, it won't screen share.
They're not full screen, no.
Okay.
A little bit. I have never used Gather before.
Okay, so just trying to, maybe I didn't do a PowerPoint last year. So apologies, but we can go ahead and introduce ourselves while I try and do this. I have a nice presentation, I swear.
They have caused a lot of people a lot of trouble this weekend.
I didn't realize there were some things I needed to do. I apologize. No, that's not it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. While Heather walks through this,
yes,
and
please
going.
Go introduce yourselves.
Yeah. While Heather walks through this and gets the PowerPoint going, because we all know how much we love technology, I'll go ahead and kick things off with an introduction. My name is BC Brown. I'm a hybrid published author with 30 years plus writing, publishing, and marketing experience. I am also neurodivergent. I can't word. I am also neurodivergent and have had to figure out how to deal with that and being a writer my whole life.
And I am Leslie Heath. I'm also neurodivergent. I'm both autistic and ADHD. And I am an indie author. I have done some trad pub work in the past, but now I'm exclusively indie. I've been writing for many years, but just started publishing a few years back.
Are you done, Leslie?
So yes.
Okay, sorry. My name is Kay Parquet. I'm a fairly recently diagnosed ADHDer as in I was older when I was diagnosed. And I do have my first book coming out, but for the most part, most of my writing has been through my business that I had for 20 years, as well as SEO writing and ghostwriting for other people. So that's basically my experience.
Okay, well, it looks like a lot of steps that I have to go through here. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself, I guess, and just kind of Okay. Yes, I'll just go ahead and do that and just abandon my presentation at the moment. So my name is Heather Dewey Pettet, and I am a writer, editor, and artist. And so what ties all three of those things together is my love of fantasy and science fiction. As a writer, I've done a lot of things for quite some time. I've been a freelance journalist, been a freelance writer, and so that was all nonfiction. And then I've been working on some fiction though in the last several years or so. So my life has gone a complete 180 in that direction, so I am currently writing writing a novel. It is women's fantasy with elements of YA fantasy and epic fantasy, and with a mythology base. And so as an editor, again, same thing. I've done that for quite some time as well. I've done a lot of different things. But over the last several years, I have mostly worked with independent authors, and I also worked for a hybrid publisher a while back. And so my specialties include developmental editing, line editing, copy editing, and proofreading. I started offering sensitivity reading pretty recently. And I'm a sometime artist, but I was diagnosed at the age of 31. I almost turned 32. I was about to turn 32 that year. So this was quite some time ago. This was in 2002. So yes, I'm neurodivergent as well. I'm also going to look into a possible autism diagnosis. So that basically that's me. Hopefully I won't have any other technical problems, but we will see. If I can get it to work, I will.
Just a quick question for our panel. How many of us were late diagnosis for our neurodivergencies? I know I was.
I was.
Okay, I think Leslie, you said you were as well.
I was diagnosed with ADHD in college, and then I was just diagnosed autistic this past summer. So yes, in my 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah, same for me in my 40s. Yeah.
Same. Okay.
So yeah, if I do get diagnosed with autism, it'll be in my 50s. Okay, well, I'm going to go maybe start looking at things we were going to discuss.
If it's okay, Heather, there's a really good
but I'm going to try not to get distracted with the questions, but to get a diagnosis as talking to your doctor.
Yeah, you should speak with both your primary care physician as well as therapist, psychiatrist.
The referral is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Referrals are good. Even if your insurance or whatever it is that you have doesn't require a referral, it's usually a good idea. You can get in a lot quicker under referral, and also you can kind of, if you have a decent primary care that you work with and you trust, you can also work with them to see if that's actually what your diagnosis is versus, say, maybe you have PTSD and you didn't realize. Since so many of the indies all overlap with each other.
Yeah.
And they have comorbidities. Yeah.
Yeah, the testing that I did this summer, I went to a neuropsychiatrist and did several days of testing for all of the things and was diagnosed with ADHD and autism. The ADHD was, of course, a redundancy because I had already been diagnosed with that, but kind of reinforced that I had both.
Well, so we have already done our introductions. That was my first wheel slide. So I'm just using it as reminders of what what we wanted to cover. Some of us here do some editing. Ellis does, but unfortunately, Ellis couldn't be on the panel. They had to go and take care of something. But at least I think a couple of us do editing. Am I right about that, Kay?
No, I haven't done editing in a while.
You have not. I'm sorry.
Not in a while.
I think BC said that.
Yeah, Heather, I do on occasion. I'm also being told that I'm breaking up a little bit, so let me bring down my mic and stuff. That could be it.
So what I had was, what does an editor do in their downtime? Whatever they want.
Downtime.
What does everybody do if they have some downtime? In general, we can start there, and we can do a quick round robin.
If I have downtime, a lot of times I'm reading. I'm not an editor. I'm a writer, and I have a day job unconnected to the publishing industry. But when I have downtime, I'm either reading or doing art of some sort.
I would have to say I'm pretty much the same way. If I'm not working, I'm usually doing creative things like painting or crafting or anything like that, just to take my mind off of the work, you know. So yeah.
Same, pretty much. Usually I'm doing some type of writing, or I'll read, and it's writing for pleasure. It's not writing to meet any kind of project or anything. It's writing prompts and just fun stuff, things that I'm actually enjoying doing.
That's cool.
I read, I play video games, I paint.
And one thing that I definitely wanted to say when I was collaborating with all of you is we all agreed that a statement to make during this session is that self-care is not selfish. And that's for everyone here, whether they are a caregiver or not, although caregivers need to remember to do that. I am one. I'm also a mom, so I have to remember that about that airplane oxygen mask analogy, which is put it on your own face first, basically. For the parents, it's something you see about moms a lot. So everyone repeat after me. Self-care is not selfish.
Self-care is
not selfish.
Self-care is definitely never selfish. It's necessary.
Yep.
Yes, it is necessary, especially for us. And also, I did want to mention that the NPC, after talking to Alice about this, is anti-toxic productivity.
Very much.
Very much.
And these groups, as well as some other groups that I will probably mention later, are anti-toxic productivity. So yes, and so I have this on the slide. I'm sorry I can't show you. There are many creative spaces online where this is the norm instead of the opposite. And I have the Neurodivergent Editors Lounge and the Writers Lounge are some of these spaces. And another one that I'm a part of is the Heart Breathings Writing Community. And then I also have here, we all urge you to take time for yourself and fill the creative well.
One of the most important things I think that can be said, because I do some freelance editing every so often. It's project based for friends usually. It's usually an exchange of services, of like they'll do my cover art if I do some line edits for them, or do sensitivity reading, something like that. But just understanding that we have to take a step back and not like put the pressures on us that the outside society puts on us all the time.
Yes.
Remembering that we don't have to match up with the outside world, the neurotypical world. We have to match with our world. And that'll actually make us harmonious with, weirdly, the neurotypical world, usually.
Yes, Marnie, I do think each person has to assess what is toxic productivity for them. It's a little
bit my subject. Go ahead. Sorry. I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, go ahead. I was just trying to address some of the comments that are popping up in the chat.
Yes.
Iris does have a good point, though, in the chat that they get accused of toxic productivity, but they don't necessarily think that wanting or even needing to finish a job is necessarily the same thing as toxic productivity. I agree with you, with a caveat attached to that, because sometimes, some of us, not all of us, but some of us can. So one of my comorbidities, which I have trouble with that word, sorry, y'all, is that I also have fibromyalgia and Hashimoto's, which are extreme, there's chronic pain and extreme fatigue and a whole plethora of other things going on. But I have to very carefully balance the fact that even my ADHD, my autism, all of that wants to finish a job so badly. I have to balance it with the fact that I know I have enough energy to do it, but if I use that energy, am I going to push myself beyond my envelope? So sometimes it's understanding where your boundaries are and respecting your own boundaries. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to push through and finish a project and get that extra dopamine hit. It is a bigger dopamine hit. I love it.
Absolutely.
I think I agree with that, but I think too that you have to be very careful about burnout and burning yourself out doing that stuff, because sometimes you hit burnout and you don't even realize you hit burnout, and then by the time you do realize it, it's way too late. So just make sure you are taking that, self-care for yourself during that time, even if you do feel like you need to push through it, so that you're not, doing that to yourself.
Very well said.
So, yeah. Sorry. So there's, I have a line on here that says filling the well versus the ND version of that. Because I say there is a difference between filling the well and doing what you need to do as a person with ND, and that we experience burnout more easily.
We do. It means we have to be more careful. And we experience burnout for, I think, a couple of reasons. One, as mentioned before, the world is not set up for us, so we have an automatic extra energy output because we're trying to figure out how to fit in, how to get the square block into the round hole. So,
I'll be right back.
we have that automatic extra push, that extra energy that we need. And so many of us have so many comorbidities that are both neurodivergent, but comorbidities that are also just taxing on physical, emotional, etc., type of health and ability. So it's very easy to not realize that we're already putting out more energy than everybody else, and then we're tacking onto it to push even further on something that we may not have gotten done otherwise. Sorry, I can get off on a tangent rambles. I'm trying to stop myself and not.
That's okay.
It was a good tangent. You're okay.
It is a very good tangent. My next subject that I wanted to talk about I see your comment, Molly. Yes, I can understand that.
That's where sorry to break in. That's where I think time blocking can come in very useful if that's something that works for you. It does not work for me, but it does work for other people I know, time blocking. So that could be something that you could do, just as a suggestion I've heard from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do true time blocking. But what I do when I'm supposed to be working on something and I know that I'm going to be easily distracted is I'll set an alarm to go off every hour just to check in and am I on task? And if I'm not on task, then I can redivert myself back to where I'm supposed to be.
I've done that in the past myself.
Yeah, body doubling is another good thing to do too. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Kay. So first, so go right ahead.
Well, I was just going to say body doubling is a great way to do things too, because you don't even have to talk to the person. You don't have to be on camera. You just be in the same room with each other, on Discord with each other or something like that. And you just check in with each other when, whatever your decided time frames are. Because when we're doing sprints, 25, 5, 25, for me, that doesn't work very well. But for some people, it may be like an hour you check in and then you take a couple of minutes break and then you keep going until you two are just basically like, okay, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I was going to say the same thing. I have several people that I body double with. And most of the time it's just, hey, are you going to be online working on something between X and Y times? Because I would like somebody to help me, keep me accountable to what I'm planning on doing today. So every so often, I have asked friends, and these are friends that are long established, my support circle. And we've established boundaries, we know them, we're good with each other's stuff. But they will just occasionally message me about every, like half hour or so, and usually will say, are you still looking at your document, or did you get sucked down a rabbit hole? So it gives me, it brings me back to what I was supposed to be doing, but it also gives me an outlet that if my autism or if my ADHD or if anything just went down a rabbit hole because I was writing and something came up, extremely interesting, or I had to know about something, it gives me a chance to also vent and spread my passion for a couple of moments. Then actually I got sucked down a rabbit hole about Roman mythology. And did you know, kind of a thing. So you can self-care at the same time as being productive. You just kind of have to know what your needs are.
Okay. One subject that we were all talking about was stimming. This is something that a lot of people do, even if they're not aware of it, whether they're neurodivergent or not, whether they tap a pencil to help concentration or whatever it is that they do. This can also help avoid burnout and doing the things we need to do to either in terms of expressing ourselves or in terms of reducing stress. Because for a lot of people, that also reduces stress levels. Running a pen or pencil between our fingers, or whatever the heck it is. Lots of things. And for some people, stimming can be so for some people that are ND, food is a huge stim. And especially what is termed safe foods for moods or for whatever, and things like the term beige foods as well. So they're, you know, it's so it's a, you know, this is a thing, you know, they're a good something to fall back on that you know you really love to eat. I really love soup. My son, who is also neurodivergent, he loves macaroni and cheese. He'd prefer to have it 24/7 if he could. What about you guys? And then I have a little bit more about stimulatory activities.
Soup is definitely mine, and bread. I love bread of any kind. Probably more than I should, but I love to eat bread. Good bread, not the spongy grocery store stuff that sticks in your teeth, but good bread.
Exactly what you mean.
So that's very specific, but I agreed with everything you just said. And there goes that autism for us to go. Ooh, food sensitive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as for myself, I have a huge. Words. One moment. I have a huge sweet tooth. So that's, and y'all just got to witness one of my tools. But I have a huge sweet tooth. But I try to stay away from that as much as possible. And my go-to like beige foods or comfort foods are definitely macaroni and cheese. So I'm right up there with your son. But soup as well is one of mine. But I really like crunchy things. So just anything that has like a good crunch to it, especially if it has a snap and a crunch. So I'm big on like breadsticks, or I'm, you know, like hardened breadsticks, or I'm big on sweet baby carrots that I can crunch, cauliflower, you know, things like that.
When I was working night shift, I used to always want something crunchy and snappy like that in the middle of the night. And we used to call it the 3 a.m. crunchy munchies.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm big into crunchy stuff too.
I often do that before I stream.
I get it. I get the urge and the need to crunch during stream because I'm overwhelmed. I'm overstimulated.
Yeah.
And so I need whatever is that comfort thing to come to. However, I hate being seen eating. So it's one of my things that I'm working on. But it's one of my things about not being seen eating. So I have to go off camera and I have no problem with going off camera, taking a break, letting people know I'm off camera during this particular productivity sprint. I need to do me things. You know, it's just me things. And Hannah, that's one of the ways to address your question a little bit. Wanted to know how we all handle balancing a job, writing, editing, hobbies, life, etc. They barely have time for writing hobbies, even as they look for a job after graduating. Then they have time for them too tired to enjoy it. I think this is pretty much just everybody's experience. Yes, please.
Can I step in? Sorry. I'm just coming from this from a point of view as a graduate student. So going to school is very hard for us. Very, very hard. And I will admit I have flunked out of 1 or 2 classes just because I just could not focus on the material. It was very dry, boring material. So when you're working, you're going to school, you're also having to deal with family and everything else. That's like a meme I saw a couple of weeks ago, was that you could be talking to, we'll say, a woman, for example, and she says she's completely fine, but then in the next sentence she tells you the next 20 crises that she's going through. So, you know, if you got all that stuff going on, you really need to sit down and just, like, what I do is I prioritize, okay, well, school is obviously important, work is obviously important, but so is taking care of myself. So, you know, what I do is then I plan out the day. I don't plan out ahead because that doesn't work for me, but I plan out the day and basically say, okay, these are the important things that have a deadline and I need to get done now. Everything else can be pushed to tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying constantly push things off, but just make sure you're focusing on what's the most important and you're not getting distracted and, you know, your squirrels get all in a get all messed up. Because I don't know about you, but I call mine squirrels. I get all my squirrels in a row.
Yeah, I was listening to a lady that talks about productivity and how to juggle all of the things, and the way that she phrased it made such perfect sense to me, because she's very similar. She's in school and she's running a business and she's running a family, and at any given time we're juggling all of these balls in the air, and some of them are glass and some of them are plastic. And so you have to be careful to catch the glass ball, even if you let some of the plastic ones drop. And what is glass and what is plastic may be variable from day to day. The child's recital that they've worked on for 9 months is probably a glass ball that you can't let drop. But making that big fancy dinner on a random Wednesday, you could probably let that one go. And hit your deadlines, but let this over here drop, and keeping a day-to-day grasp of what is the most important thing today, and what is it okay if I let it drop.
I think that's a really great analogy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I always looked at it as spinning plates. See the people that used to spin the plates and how many of them that you can have. A lot of it for me goes back to knowing what my boundaries are and what is a priority to me no matter what. Like, to me, the priority that I have, that no matter what, I am always going to get adequate sleep. I mean, I can tell myself when I'm going to let myself break that rule, but it is a priority for me. It has to be a priority for me because of my health, because of my mental health, things of that nature. And letting people know that and understand that, and eventually the right people eventually come to respect that. And if they don't, they're probably not the right people, or they just need a lot more education about what it's like to live with, interact with, and have an indie person in their life.
I was going to put an analogy out there that I've heard, and the analogy is that everybody has a bag full of marbles. The only problem is that neurodivergent people don't have the bag to hold the marbles, so we're trying to hold everything. Yeah, exactly. We're trying to hold everything in our arms and our hands, and they're slipping all over the place and they're falling everywhere. And the good thing is we can get medication for it, but the medication is still a holy bag.
And the medication doesn't work.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Leslie.
And the medication doesn't work for everybody. I can't take stimulants because I have a heart condition.
Yeah.
And
can cause, if it's not for you, it can cause problems.
yes.
Yeah. I know some folks.
What Leslie was pointing out there is very good. Leslie can't have stems because of heart medication. I can't have stems because of complex PTSD, which is not a neurodivergency, but it has rewired me because of it. So there's just knowing what you can have and can't have.
Right. So for people who can't have it, or for one reason or another, they're not taking it at the moment, or they don't like how it makes them feel, again, going back to stimming, it's very helpful for focus and just for various purposes. A lot of people pace. That's one of their stems. There's tactile stimming, like brushing your hands together. I often do that, or squeezing them, or touching them.
I said I've been doing that the whole time we've been talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Put my hands down here.
Or keeping my hands really busy. That helps too. Mm-hmm. Or having a prop or something. So that's a thing.
Fidget toy.
A toy or...
Fidget toys are amazing. Fidget toys are amazing.
I'm playing one right now.
Let's just say we have a lot of those in my family. There's verbal stimming. Like humming or even singing, or other verbal stimming behaviors. There's things like counting for an internal thing. Some people do that. Some people add or count or repeat numbers. So, whatever it is you do, just you do you. I was thinking about that earlier. So there's other stems, of course, that do help with those sorts of things, but they can, although they can be taken to the extreme, like skin picking and things like that. I know that happens.
Yeah, that would be.
$1,000.
That can happen.
It was exactly.
It's something I've actually done a little skin picking myself. But anyway,
The family of the woman.
but I did also want to talk about creative stimming activities that are really, really good. A lot of us us on this panel, and Ellis was included in this, love fiber arts, which I have is a tactile lover's dream. Like knitting, crochet, and then they're also meditative, of course.
You figure it would have.
I think I remember you do that, Karen, a little bit, some fiber arts.
If you constantly
Yeah, I do some crocheting here and there, and I have the spoons for it. So
Yeah.
crocheting is not my favorite fiber art, but usually what I end up doing is more things with like stickers and paper for my tactile art. Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I have a lot of little machines.
But I have that coming
but, yeah.
too.
attack people
I mentioned
doing
a
good
little bit. Yeah, and then physical art, like crafting and painting. And I know both of you do painting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do paint. I paint on the regular. Actually, that was my entire day yesterday because I just needed to. I needed to refill. I needed to do self-care. I had a ton of things to do. I had laundry to do. I had dishes to do. These were all pressing things. I had a house that was just beyond cluttered. But I knew I needed something tactile, and I needed something that I could do that would let my brain unplug. And doing art is what shuts my brain off. I think of nothing while I'm doing art, which is amazing for being able to do that and not be in a disassociated state. Because I know there will be a lot of people that will understand. Sometimes we can shut our brains off. That's not a problem. But this was a deliberate. I shut it off, and I shut it off where I wasn't associated. I could still feel things. I could still interact with people. I could still do things while I was doing my art. My brain was just blissfully in a meditative state.
Yes.
For me.
I completely understand. And then I know you sometimes use watercolors. I think both of you do, if I remember correctly. And using watercolors is great because you can use a wide variety of surfaces, not just watercolor paper, or even just watercolor paper has a wide variety of surfaces. The different pounds have different textures and things like that, but also like oils and different things, different kinds of artwork, physical artwork are just nice and I like touching watercolor paper. I don't know about you guys.
It does. It has a really good tactile feel to it. Watercolor paper is just really really good paper to work on. But I want to point out that, as we're mentioning, like doing things like having fidget toys or stimming toys or, having art that's sitting there for you. I mostly work in acrylics, but what I have found is that if I keep an ink pen, just a normal blue or, we're all editors and writers, and we've got 8 billion tons of pens probably running around and pencils running around, but mostly ink pens. Some type of ink pen that has, like gel ink or something like that. It's not your standard rolly ball type thing. You can use spit and an ink pen and your finger to do watercolors. I'm not kidding. I have used condensation off of a water glass to do watercolor art. I've used a Q-tip to do watercolor. It's not having money.
And I grew up
dirt poor.
I have a lot of that. I have a mention of that too.
Yeah, I want to point that out. It's not the privilege of having wealth. If you have an ink pen and a finger and some spit, you can pretty much do watercolor. And you don't have to be good at it. It's doodling. Just have fun.
Exactly. Amen. And it took me a while to figure that one out, but yeah, it is. That is exactly the point of watercolor. It's doodling. It's very true. And then yes, I have a list of things that other creative stemming activities involving paper, like planning and journaling and things like that. Because paper, and then I have a line that goes stickers and post-its and tabs. Oh my! So I think all of us love that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And just other shiny things and dangly bits like bookmarks and charms on planners and things like that.
And some of this, I'd like to point out, you don't even have to buy it; you can make it yourself.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah.
And some people only believe in digital planning because it's eco-friendly.
Or just so it's always
but
available.
I use a lot of paper planners because they are recyclable and stuff like that. Also, composition books are cheap.
And sometimes free if you go somewhere.
And sometimes free depending on yeah, right.
I am a big fan of if and when I'm traveling, if I'm in a place that has little notebooks, like just a little like notepads, I totally five-finger those all the time, and they go home with me.
Hotels when they have them, I grab them. When they have pads and pens.
They're at the grocery store. Up here, they're at the grocery store, and I can just grab them at the grocery store at their little checkout areas, and I doodle on them while I'm waiting in line.
There you go. There you go. I also have a I have a slide about spaces, where if you can get outdoors, it's like opening a window in your brain. And I even have a comment that says sometimes opening a window is enough to create a new dynamic in your brain.
And sometimes a change of scenery is the best thing for you.
And I mentioned that parks are nice, quiet places for a reset, even in your car. You don't even have to get out if you can't or whatever. It's a nice place to sit and recharge. And I've done that after dropping off my kid at school and such.
It gives you a couple minutes to yourself.
Yes.
And as far as that goes, I'm sorry, I should chime in on it. That you can a change of scenery, because so with me, with my fibro and my Hashimoto's, the chronic pain can be so severe that just shifting your weight from one side of your booty to the other side of your booty can be extremely painful and exhausting to the point where you pretty much end up taking a nap afterwards. But so changing your position or changing your scenery is not always possible for everybody.
Yes, and I did want to mention that.
Yeah, but in that regard, you can do little things that still change your scenery. We all have a side of a couch that we like to sit on when we're comfortable.
That's true.
Or we all have a chair that we sit in, or we all have our nightstand a certain way, or whatever. Those are things that you can choose to sit on the other side of the couch. It changes your perspective. It changes your scenery. You might be able to look out a different window or look out a window. And you're not doing anything except for making the conscious decision of self-care to sit on the other side of the couch that day. Then you settle into your
window like I'm doing right now.
Yeah. And then you settle into your position of everything's in pain and I'm on fire, but that's okay. I changed positions at least. I did some self-care.
Excellent.
Right. Yes, BC. And then also, sorry. So sorry. So again, talking about indoor spaces, libraries can be quiet spaces, or if they get noisy, they have rooms for reading or relaxing. Excuse me. Anybody here reserve a room in a library before?
I have.
I've never needed to do that. I've only done it when I've had it like an event or a meeting or something like that. But I'm a person that goes and puts my headphones on and will listen to white noise if necessary, or I'll just take my hearing aids out entirely and mute the world. I have a secret power. I can turn my ears off.
Okay, so a lot of us have spouses, and so that's a thing that we talked about. Maybe we could do that really quick. They do have idiosyncrasies, and so whether or not they are ND as well, they do have idiosyncrasies that can bother us, whether they talk very loudly. Earplugs are great, right? Or in your case, BC, you can take out.
That's okay. My ears are the plugs. It's all good.
So I do have a slide about if you don't have much money for self-care, instead of taking an art course or spending a lot of money on art supplies, there's lots of YouTube videos, so many YouTube videos. If you want to follow along with somebody or to get ideas, and that's where I mentioned composition books are great, because you can even slap some sketch paper on top of that paper. You can glue it in for different purposes, stuff like that. And they're very inexpensive around the school year, beginning of the school year, and at the semesters and all of that.
I think it's good that you brought that up, Heather. The train of thought. Hold on.
I did that yesterday.
Nope,
I'll get it back in a moment. Trust me, it'll come back.
I get it.
Very close to me. Time. What time is it?
Yeah, I keep looking at. I have 18 after 4.
Oh, yes.
But anyway, just if you don't have much money, scrolling can be self-care as long as you, set a timer and you don't spend 3 hours doing it. in my case. The news can be self-care. Petting your cat or your dog, that's self-care. Yep. I say taking care of pets, cuddling included. Need I say more? My little comment there.
I saw Leslie's. They're probably not actually emotional support animals, but emotional support animals that came up behind you. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a dog up there, I think, and then there's a cat around here somewhere.
So there's this guy. I've got another black long-haired cat, and then the German Shepherd sleeping on the floor behind me. Taking care of animals is a great way to do self-care, and it's not even taking care of them. It's just spending a couple minutes with them or talk to them. Ooh, talking to my animals is my favorite way of stimming. I will sing to them.
Oh, I love doing that. I grew up around all kinds of animals. It's been proven that it will lower your blood pressure by petting an animal, or even getting a hug. Hey, that's free.
Yeah.
If I need a hug, I'll ask my son. He's good at it. Watching a favorite movie or show. You don't even need a streaming service.
Yeah, and it's
really
perfectly fine to watch your favorite movie or favorite show over and over and over. Don't let anybody tell you.